welcome to the June 16th meeting of the Buffalo City Council. And we start each meeting with announcements. And I'm going to do something a little unusual here today, but I went back and forth on this, but feel I need to say something. So Saturday morning, went down to the lake for a fishing clinic for kids and got home and got a text about a shooting. And I was like, what shooting? And got some of the information and just was shocked by that whole thing. The U.S. attorney has called it a political assassination of former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband are dead. Senator John Hoffman and his wife were shot, and I haven't heard much, but they're serious condition, certainly. We did not issue a statement on it, but I want it to be clear to everybody that on behalf of the city of Buffalo, our heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims and praying for full recovery of the Hoffmans, and we condemn this violence in the strongest possible terms. Also would like to thank law enforcement and all those who work to protect the public throughout the manhunt and to apprehend the perpetrator of this heinous crime. So, hate to start it with that, but I thought we should say something. So, with that, I'm going to go. I don't know who wants to go next after that, but let's go with George.
I don't have any announcements. I do have a council report later on.
I just have one announcement. We get a number of publications and we receive information from the League of Minnesota Cities. There's a survey that is out by MnDOT about bicycle safety, and I encourage you to go to the MnDOT site and find that survey and take it. I know we concern ourselves with Buffalo, as we rightly should, but we are also part of the state and the bicycle network that is part of that. And the last survey, the last time they came up with guidance on bike safety in the state was 2016. So it's definitely time to do it again, and there have been a lot of updates, e-bikes, e-skateboards, and scooters to consider too. So people who ride those, please look on the MnDOT site and take the survey.
Thank you, Councilmember Walsh. Councilmember Dahl?
Yeah, just I think we had a good Buffalo Days, and I think there was a good kickoff with the fly-in breakfast and the car show on that Sunday. There was limited aircraft because it got windy, but the pancake breakfast was a good hit, and they had 285 cars, which is the most they've ever had at the car show. So good turnout. So thanks, everyone.
It was a nice event. Councilmember Crawford?
I do not have any announcements this week.
Okay. So with that, we go to the open forum. So if there's anybody here that wants to address an issue that's not on the agenda tonight, we got a few minutes for you. Please state your name and address or connection with the city.
Sue Olmscheid here with the Chamber of Commerce.
Hi,
Good
Sue.
evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to give a public shout out to our city departments. It was everybody this weekend to pull off Buffalo Days as it was with the rain. I felt this morning I should crawl under a rock with how Sturgis Park looked with the ruts and the mud, but the parks team was already out there filling it this morning and was, saying how, hey, it could have been a whole lot worse. So appreciate the police department, streets, parks, gosh, everybody. Taylor volunteered to help with our parade, so it does take a whole community to do this thing, and even though the weather did not cooperate, just wanted to show my appreciation to everybody who helped support us get her done. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue, and the Chamber for putting that on, and I'll take the opportunity since we're talking about it. There is just an army of volunteers on that thing to make it go, and appreciate everybody who contributes to that, and the city staff contributed greatly, and that's much appreciated. Those events just hit home to me more this past one. It just really helps to bring people together as a community, and it's just very much appreciated, everybody who was involved in that. So I'll save the rest for reports and recognition, but anybody else for the open forum? Thank you, Sue. All right, we got council reports and recognition. Sheila, you got anything there?
About additions and deletions.
Oh, any additions or deletions? No, thank you.
I do not have
I
anything,
appreciate
no.
that. Councilmember Dahl.
Nothing to report.
All right, Aaron?
Oh, boy, I do have a few. I'm sorry, I'll be brief.
That's all right.
Sue already thanked departments, but I wanted to especially call out Carrie and the Streets Department. When we have Buffalo Days, there's a lot of prep for the parade and the nearby lots. They sweep, they paint, and they fill holes, just all sorts of work to get ready, and help for the airport with the fly-in prep. And soon they'll be working on drainage ditches at 55 and 25. Lots going on there. If you're like me and you like to plan ahead, this summer's Night to Unite is going to be August 5th. I bring this up early now because they would like you to register on the city website. Look under the spotlights section on our city website and start checking into how you can have your neighborhood participate. On Tuesday, June 3rd, I joined a free Zoom on a legislative session outcomes. That was very interesting, got lots of good information. On Tuesday, June 10th, we had our BCAC, Buffalo Community and Arts Center, monthly meeting, and we discussed our upcoming fundraisers and had a discussion about the Buffalo Cinema and some redevelopment ideas for that as a public entertainment space. And on Friday, June 13th, I know others are going to mention this too, but there was a wonderful celebration hosted at the Fire Hall because of the rain by Bolton and Mank to celebrate the Highway 25 downtown improvements. And it was great to see Tom Emmer there and to be there with so many people having a great lunch and a wonderful day. And so proud of that work that was done in the downtown area.
Thank you. George?
I just have one update. Today was the Community Center Building Task Force meeting. We're moving right along. We're at the stage of design development where we've developed the plans and an early draft of the budget. So two things I want to mention. I direct you to the city website. There's been an update to the community center so you can read all about it and the intention. I know that there's a couple, it's just been put up on the website, so there are a couple of things that still need to be updated, but it's pretty accurate, probably 80% at this point. August 4th, coming before council should be the approved, looking at the design that we've been working on since January, I guess. We hired the architect February. Yeah, so for the last 6 months, 5-6 months now that we're going, there'll be a drawing package. We'll be presenting that August 4th, and then we'll be looking for approval of the design and authorizing putting the project out to bid. So we'll bid that in August and probably in September get some numbers back and be able to adjust. So our budget is tight, but we're working with ad alternates and ways to see once bidding comes in and how competitive it is, how much we can get in the project, because it's a very important project for the city of Buffalo. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Fantasia. It's nice to have an architect on that board, so appreciate you lending your professional expertise to that effort. So a couple things.
We've got a lot of good people working on that, so thank you, Mayor.
I'm glad to hear it. So I want to echo thanks to Representative Emmer for coming Friday, being a part of the event at the fire hall, and thank him again for his efforts to acquire $5.7 million for that Highway 25 project that we didn't have to come up with locally. So that's huge. Wednesday, June 11th, along with Administrator Gronow, Finance Director Josh Kent, and Kara Hess, the Water Superintendent, had a little ceremony at Alina Hospital and presented the Clean Energy Choice little plaque to them. They signed up to buy 100% carbon-free, basically, energy from the city of Buffalo through the Minnesota Municipal Power Agency. Residential customers can also sign up for this program. It costs an additional $3 a month. So it's nice that we have that option, not only for our residential customers, but larger commercial, industrial customers. If if they want to go carbon-free, we can give that to them through our power agency. So appreciate Alina working with the city on that development, so.
There's one other thing, and that we should probably mention, the city offices are closed on Thursday this week for
Juneteenth?
June.
Yes, I was going to announce that instead.
Okay.
Okay, good call. So I think, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I think that takes us to the consent agenda. Everybody get a chance to look that over, or want to pull anything out to recognize or talk about?
I do have one question.
And what is that?
On the master fee schedule that was included, the third item says inclusion of an escrow for concept reviews by the Planning Commission. And I just thought that it should be a little more clear that we don't get payment for working like on projects for the Planning Commission. That's somebody else. You'll tell us about it.
Yep, certainly. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, as Councilmember Walsh noted, that inclusion of an escrow, funds does not go to the Planning Commission themselves. The intent with that is to have funds set aside for review of development concepts by our city planner and then our city engineer. So admittedly, this has long been a practice that we've had at the city. I think upon review of the fee schedule by staff recently, we noticed that it was not on there. For whatever reason, I think it's been something that we have done for certainly before my time. So the thought was, with this update, we wanted to have that stated there explicitly. So developers notice in advance of any application that there will be an escrow that's submitted. So with an escrow, obviously the amount is only going to be whatever is used by the city engineer and the city planner in the review. So oftentimes half of it is returned, if not more. So yeah, wanted to note that is not $1,500 that goes directly to the Planning Commission, as they only receive a stipend of $20 a meeting, I believe it is. So, but happy to answer any other questions on the fee schedule update.
Looked good to me. In fact, I sent it out because I have some friends that are interested in the chickens. And
Oh, yeah.
having chickens, and it's a $30 initial and then $5 a year.
Yep.
I think that's pretty reasonable. So,
Yeah.
you know, administrative for the first 30 and then checking up on chickens.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, I'm showing that it's the coop's in the same place it was before.
Yeah, yeah.
Same number of chickens as it was before.
Yeah.
Not a lot that we need to check as staff. So,
That's pretty cool.
yep. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
I have one item,
Yes, George.
if everyone else has covered. In this consent agenda is a Minnesota Pollution Control Agency grant assessment. Now, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency is offering a study of stormwater capture and reuse for irrigation assessment. And part of it is looking at, the lake discharge out of Pulaski Lake. Now, you would think pollution control, they wouldn't worry about that water because it's very pure spring water. But I like the fact that they're studying it, because that water should be reused for something besides just pumping it into Buffalo Lake and then going into the Crow River. So I'm really excited to see this. This will only cost the city $2,566 of a $50,000 grant. So, the Pollution Control Agency, I've worked with them before in downtown Minneapolis on some projects, and, they're looking for ways to, save our surface water, our clean water, and I think this is a very good use of it, so I'm very much in favor of this. So if you're looking for a consent agenda movement to approve, I would do that right now.
All right, and do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? There being none, that passes. So we're gonna move right to old business. Design development plans, First Street Northeast and downtown parking lots. And we've got our architect here. Please introduce yourself.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Lance Schuer, landscape architect with Bolton and Mink. I've been leading the design efforts for Wide Street and the adjacent parking lots, and really the First Avenue Northeast downtown area reconstruction efforts, along with your city engineer, Justin Canas. So, okay, so quick design recap. I'm just going to go right to the next slide because I think this does a better job of discussing where we're at today. So the last time we met, we reviewed some concepts and decided we needed to get into a little bit more detail with the Wide Street area. And so over the past 3.5, 4 months, we've had 3 meetings with city staff from various departments, 3 meetings with the task force that was appointed to the Wide Street area project. And then also we had a meeting with building and business owners, generally stakeholders around the South Dudley lot as a part of the project. So where we're at today, we are here, City Council review, looking for approval on the refined concept for this project. And from this point forward, we'll be moving into construction drawings. There will be meetings with specific city staff as needed to finish those plans. And the plan right now is to have the plans wrapped up by the end of the year so that we can go into bidding right after the first of the year for 2026. So with that, I'm just going to jump right in and talk about the updated concepts. So where we're at for a finished concept, we landed on a central roadway, so 2-way traffic with parallel parking on both sides. The sidewalk on the north side of the street is slightly wider than the south side. And the reason for this is that through the various meetings with staff and the task force, it became a priority to make this a wider pedestrian space and experience for the city. Some of this is somewhat, I would say, depending on a few factors. One is there's a green space right now in the south end of this Owen Haugland Plaza parking lot. And capitalizing on that, this is widely considered to be a larger gathering area for people. So there's a longer community table in here. What you're seeing, these circles, these are trees on both sides of the street. Those would sit in a short concrete planter curb around 4 inches tall. And then there are benches along the streetscape. There's some tables and chairs here on the west end of the streetscape. And the idea behind this side being wider than the south side, there were a couple of reasons for that. One was this green space here, better alignment with the road across First Avenue Northeast to the east, and also providing a wider sidewalk for the potential redevelopment across 25 to the west. So it seemed natural that if we were going to give one sidewalk more space than the other, this sidewalk was viewed as the more heavily used sidewalk on Wide Street. Looking, let's see, the former movie theater, you're seeing tables and chairs here. These are anticipated to not be publicly placed or owned. This is more showing the possibility for this site over here. Other things you're seeing in the rendered plan, bump outs at all the corners, so we have shorter crosswalks. You're seeing the sort of dimensions listed here. So even on the south sidewalk, we have 9 feet clear. The north sidewalk, we have 9 feet and 15 feet clear. Again, we've met with city staff multiple times to talk about snow removal operations and the dimensions that they need out of the project. And we have approval from those various city departments. Just to highlight a few other things on the overall plan, talked about the community table space, the tables and chairs, the benches. On the north lot, and we'll get into this in a few more slides here, we are unable to rebuild either parking lot to the dimensions that exist today. the parking lot is sort of operating on outdated current city building codes. So in order to rebuild it, it was discussed and determined that we should really get those up to code. So that means adequately spaced parking spaces, adequately spaced drive aisles, and this parking lot did get a little bit longer to the south in order to still get close to the amount of parking spaces we had in there today. Couple of minor things we added over here on the west side. There's a space for bike racks, and over here on the east, we've added a green boulevard to try to fit in a couple of trees along the street. Otherwise, this parking lot largely will function as it does today. Moving to the south, the Dudley Plaza lot, we had multiple iterations that we went through city staff and the task force with. It was discussed that this option was preferred, to have head-in parking on the west side of the lot, two-way drive aisles, all three going north-south. And the way the dimensions work, it was preferred to keep the drive aisles going north-south rather than explore an east-west option. The way the dimensions kind of shook out with the new building ordinances, we did have a green space in the middle of the parking lot. Part of the reason for that is we don't have enough dimension east and west to actually fit a whole nother parking space in a two-way drive aisle. That would take roughly, I think, 42 extra feet, and we just don't have the space today. All right, I'm going to jump through a few more slides here. So this is a view from the southeast showing kind of overall what the new design is for Wide Street, and you're seeing that drive aisle, or the drive lanes down the middle. This is showing the space during an event, so tents, picnic tables, people using the space. The sidewalks are generous at the corners, so I think there's an opportunity to potentially provide, movable planters in the summer season. Could be more spaces for public art later on. There's just more opportunities at these sidewalk spaces than there is currently. Here's a view kind of looking down that north side of Wide Street towards the west. You're seeing that longer community table here, benches, the standard street pole light down the street, as well as some string lighting. And we are also proposing some uplighting in the trees. The idea when it comes time for bidding is that we're going to have our base bid and then we're going to have some alternates. So depending on where those numbers come in and what the ultimate project budget is, those decisions will be made at that time in terms of what's in and out of the project. But the idea is that we're going to build in sort of a base level for design and then some alternates in case the numbers come out favorable. All right, so this is the west side of the street looking towards the east. You're seeing those larger sidewalks at the corners, two-way drive lanes, parallel parking, and then that sitting area over here with tables and chairs, benches throughout on both sides of the street, planting, shade trees, et cetera. So overall, the big redesign effort was more space for pedestrians on the sidewalk and less roadway paving in the future. All right, the north lot, the Owen, is it Hogland or Hageland? Assume it's Hogland. I could be wrong though. This kind of compares the current dimensions with the new dimensions that are needed to meet city building code. So as you can see, we simply just had to stretch the lot out further to the south to make it all work. The only other big change is it's one-way traffic. So it's two ways in and out, 24 feet wide, and then you move through the parking lot counterclockwise. And that's done to maximize the amount of parking stalls and minimize the amount of drive aisles. All right, now moving on to the OL Dudley lot, existing versus proposed. This is where we get into some of the existing conditions just being tighter, not necessarily up to building codes and situations. Emergency access, we ran some turning maneuvers through the multiple concepts, and This version, the latest version, was preferred to have head-end parking here, and then a 24-foot wide drive aisle on this west side. The other big change we discussed with everyone involved was the potential to remove this existing drive-through lane and then provide head-end parking for these businesses on the south side of the lot. Big reason for this is that if this is not being utilized, it's a lot of paving that isn't used for parking in the lot. And that also allowed for better circulation for, I would say, maintenance vehicles, but also emergency fire truck access to make sure that this alleyway is better aligned all the way through the block to First Avenue. That's the biggest change in terms of this south edge of the lot. A few other things to point out with the parking lot are the proposed restroom building being in the southeast, a sidewalk connection that carries you through the parking lot, better wayfinding for the businesses on the west side of the parking lot over here. We did remove some of the parking lot islands. I know parking stalls are very valuable in this lot. That's what we heard through the stakeholders from the parking lot and also the task force and city staff as well, that we tried to maximize as much parking as we could and still meet current city building codes. The other thing we did, I'll kind of jump ahead here. I think maybe it's not in here. The other discussion we had was on dumpster enclosures and how many dumpsters are out there on the back side of the lot now, and how that can be consolidated to be potentially a north location and a south location in here. And then I think those discussions are going to be ongoing between essentially us as the design team, the city, and these business owners and general stakeholders of this parking lot to make sure we get it right and get the adequate amount of dumpster enclosures in this parking lot. So there are lots of discussions on that. In terms of the parking spaces you're seeing, we tried to anticipate a similar amount of ADA landings in the parking lot. And this lot also has a loading area up here that's striped, which also allows for the fire truck to swing around this right-hand turn and gain access to the lot. Item number 1, added stormwater treatment. This is one of the few areas of the project that we have a space large enough to take advantage of the MPCA grants for the project. So the idea is that this will be a stormwater infiltration feature. It will have the underground utilities necessary to bring stormwater in, filter it, and then send it along its way out of the parking lot. So that design will be contingent on soil borings and water table and soil conditions, et cetera, once the project becomes a reality. And then the sidewalk lighting, we had a few proposals for different lighting, especially string lighting. At first we discussed putting it over the entire street, but the fire department did not like that. They did not want anything overhead in case there is a fire and they have to use the ladder truck. So we moved it to the sidewalk. We really only have it on this north side, on the west half of the block and the east half of the block. And some of this will be dependent on the bids and pricing and where everything comes in. We've added some additional lights in here, like uplights on the trees, some pole-mounted spotlights as well in this green space. And then a few other icons out here are the traditional pedestrian light, the acorn light, and then some overhead parking lot lights. Let's just give you an idea of what those lighting types are, from the catenary lighting, the string lighting, to the tree-up lights, to the spotlight poles. And then lastly, working through the site furnishing options, it was preferred to go with a heavy timber look for the benches and the picnic table, the community table, and then the smaller sidewalk table and chair. This will be a metal table and chair that's secured to the paving. Again, the idea is that we are going to have this in there, and then we will also have, as an alternate, the city bench that's already being used, as well as another furnishing set that if this comes in obviously too expensive, then we have to pivot and go with another option. All right, that was probably a lot of talking from me, so any questions?
A good presentation, Lance. Thank you for explaining that to council. Questions, comments, thoughts?
You had mentioned that you had talked to business owners in the Dudley Plaza. Did you talk to any business owners outside of that? Did they have any input, or was it just around the Dudley Plaza?
It was around the Dudley Plaza. I know that there are other business owners that are part of the task force, and David can probably answer that better than I can.
Yes, thank you, Council. Yeah, so the task force that Lance has referenced is made up of a number of property owners and business owners on First Avenue Northeast. So we have Amy Austin from Biggs & Company. We have Alon Ventura. Alon Ventura owns the building that Biggs & Company's on the corner. We have Stephen Murdoch and Amanda Kiviajo from Out to Work. We had a couple of other members of the task force, Jing Bregman from BJ's Deli, and then we had a couple of others invited, but the meetings were at noon, which can be challenging for some to attend, but we did try to incorporate different groups of people, primarily for the task force, those on the First Avenue Northeast street. So the intent too with meeting with the business owners in the Dudley lot is we recognize that there's going to be an impact to that lot. So while we didn't meet with them in the beginning for the First Avenue street itself, because some of that was dealing with a lot with street infrastructure and the like, we did want to bring them in at some point to discuss some of what we proposed. So I'll answer your question. But.
Thank you.
George?
Okay, thank you, Lance. I noticed that on the pattern, on the image of the wide street, it looks like, are you proposing like a stamp pattern, or is this just standard concrete broom finish, or have you gotten that far yet? The images look like it could be a stamped or a,
Yeah, I think we're finalizing that piece of it with the, I would call it like the enhanced concrete. For right now, it's mostly just plain concrete. We are talking about potentially doing the middle sidewalk, so through here and possibly at the ends as a colored concrete.
Yeah, I saw that in the image. If you pull that up, that's what piqued my interest there. I saw some patterning in that right there.
This one here.
So I wondered if that was the intention. So I'm not against it at all. I know that, but I want to know
Sure.
from our city staff, if they have issues with it, or if there's an, integral color or that kind of stuff. I know staining, I don't think staining is a good option for outside.
No.
It's got to be an integral color if we're going to do it. I know that's more expensive, but we're trying to make this nice, and but then that means that our maintenance staff have to be aware of that when they run the plows on it, right? Because it
Right.
can damage it. So I mean, I like what's going on. It looks good. I don't see, and I don't know that this is true or not, but I don't see room for like maybe a future sculpture or an art, piece of art, or has that been thought about? Is that maybe those corner?
There's one marked there at the corner by the theater,
Is that-
number 7.
Yeah, but that's not part of our project, though. Is it? That's possible proposal.
Yeah.
But it's not something that we can control.
I think the idea is that essentially any of these corners, there's a 7 here. There could be a 7 on any of these corners for Wide Street. I think there's space, especially on the north side, there's space for public art, sculpture, et cetera. I think that's a piece that we kind of loosely identified during the project to say we have the capacity for public art. We don't necessarily have a public artist on the team that's designing it right now,
No.
but the idea is that we kind of have those spaces available for that. And that's why you're seeing just larger open space at those corners.
I will ask Commissioner Walsh what her thoughts are, but I think we could tag some of those on these drawings as potential spots. Wouldn't you think that?
Is that something we need to do at this point, do you think, David?
To add in specific locations for art?
Just possible locations for art. I mean,
Yeah,
it shows an intention,
Yeah,
And,
I mean, we certainly could. I think we included a bird, which admittedly is, I don't know if that's what we're probably going to have. Is that what that was?
I
Yeah.
thought the mouse got stuck in the corner.
Yep, yeah. So we do have, I mean, we can certainly have that
It's
added
just-
if
it's
you
just-
wish.
It's
Yeah.
just, it's an attitude towards beyond just concrete and
Yeah.
streetlights and I like what's there, but I just think we could make an effort to, I don't know that we need more buffaloes. But, you know, there's potential for our.
I think,
Go ahead.
oh, I was going to add also murals, now that we have a good solid mural ordinance and a plan for encouraging those, that could happen along here.
That wouldn't be hard to do. The last thought, in the O.L. Dudley parking lot, so currently the stormwater in that parking lot then is just going directly into the storm sewers, is it? So
Currently, yes.
So the intention that you're talking about is to filter that right on site with a retention type pond?
Correct, yeah. Retention pond, we talked about potentially doing it along Wide Street. However, the beds are narrower, and it's a little harder to make that work and still have it be safe for people getting out of their vehicles and not have, you know, like a 12 or 18-inch drop-off right outside their car. That's where, with head-in parking here and a larger green space, this kind of sets up well to take advantage of that
And the
as a
grade
stormwater.
the grade works better for you. right there.
Exactly, yeah, we're further downhill as well.
And just for edification, a retention pond or a detention pond, a detention pond is trying to hold water. This is retaining it long enough to filter it.
Yep.
And it can be cleaned out in the future if it gets filled up. So that's, I like that a lot. I think that's a good
Yeah.
move to keep the water as clean as you can before it goes into the storm sewer.
And city staff asked that we put a concrete wall around it so that it looks like it's supposed to be a infiltration or rain garden, so that if it has native plants in it and it looks a little bit messy, that's what it's supposed to look like. So we'll do our best designing it, but maintenance also wants to make it clear that, yes, this is a stormwater feature.
Signage helps.
Yeah.
We did that down on Target Field Station, where we used the rainwater off of that project.
Yeah.
And there's all that grasses back there. That's all retained water. So, yeah, this is good.
I think a natural concern for everybody is to see the parking number of spaces diminish, but I heard you very clearly say there's been a change in code since that parking lot was first established. And I also know that we're doing a good job with this plan of addressing Americans with Disabilities Act compliance too, for getting in and out of vehicles. So I just wanted to say I find that's an important point.
Certainly. One thing I did want to add as it pertains to parking. So there's a loss, I believe, of 14 stalls from the south side from what is currently there. Again, for a number of reasons. There's a couple of reasons where those parking stalls are lost, with the biggest one being design, standards having changed. I did want to note that on the north lot, the Owen Haugland Plaza, so currently there are 31, I believe, and we are proposing to install 39 with the longer parking lot width. So, yeah, obviously a loss of 14 here. There's a lot of impact on that. There's a couple of reasons for this loss. I believe you could count maybe 2 stalls for the public bathrooms, which is something that we have heard from the business community downtown for a while that they've been looking for. Wasn't necessarily in this location, but just they wanted a location of public bathrooms that those that visit for occasional store weekends or generally looking for a bathroom could locate. So we thought it best to be right there. The inclusion of a location, especially on the north side, for centralized dumpster locations, that probably takes up a stall or 2. The reason for that too, I think there's kind of two-part. One of them is that obviously a lot of the businesses downtown need dumpsters. They need dumpsters located pretty close to their building. The one thing we're mindful of with this is we do not want these dumpsters to take up any more parking stalls if they're not located in the central location. So the thought was that with this was to try to put them in spots that are still conducive for businesses to utilize them, but then also not take up parking stalls that we already are losing. And then The third piece of this, I did want to mention, was that, and I know it's 2 blocks away, but the First Street South, we are proposing in August, I believe, to repaint or restripe that street to add 29 parking stalls where there's currently 0. So obviously, I know there's an impact on this specific lot, and there's an impact to the whole project, frankly, with the number of stalls we used to have. But we are, I guess as staff, trying to find creative locations to install more of them. And unfortunately, in some locations, you know, it's hard to avoid. I think with adding 8 to the Owen Hogland Plaza, I mean, again, with the inclusion of a nicer street, the hope is that people are more apt to want to park there and walk just across the street. But you know, we're trying to be creative on how we do that. So, just one thing I wanted to add as it pertains to parking.
I would always like to see more benches, and I know this because when I would take my mom places, she always needed to find a bench pretty quickly when the time came. And I know that's going to raise the price tag, and we can't really do that. We're concerned, but since Sue is here, maybe you can talk a little bit about the plastic bag saving for the benches that the chamber's doing. And I think that there's some great places in this plan where benches would be a nice amenity.
Sure, yeah, we are working, the community basically is working together with Worldtronics, and so the chamber has a collection site, but many other businesses are working to collect their plastic. I know some of our retail stores are doing the same. Every 1,000 pounds of plastic that we collect makes a beautiful maintenance-free bench. So we will, I just added one today, we're probably at about 22 benches that we've been working on for various churches and schools and other nonprofits, and so I would hope in this project, or even as we go to the community center out the Penrad space, if the city is in want of some benches, that might be a good avenue to do it. And Worldtronics and the chamber is willing to keep making benches as long as people are willing to bring plastic, so.
Where do you bring the plastic to?
We bring it to Worldtronics.
No, but.
Oh, like the collection, you can bring them to the chamber. A lot of people, like anybody who's had a bench made already knows they can just bring it directly to Worldtronics, so they skip us. But the community in large just generally brings a small bag of their Target bags or Walmart bags. Sometimes they come in with many bags, landscaping bags and whatnot, so they can drop them off. We even have an outside dumpster at the chamber office if it's after hours or weekends.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you get the bags from like Walmart and Target from their collection boxes?
They do
or-
it themselves, like people, I know I went into the grocery store the other day and a woman brought her own in. So they had been doing that, and in the end, Worldtronics brought it there anyway. But now Worldtronics invested in their own baler, so we can go kind of skip that step and go right, they can bale a 10,000 pound, you know, and get it right to trucks, and they come and pick it up, and it's worked great. So they're doing almost a bench a month.
Nice.
Do they collect from Walmart and from Cub or any other stores that collect?
No, because Walmart and
Do they use their,
Cub
they-
kind of has
they-
their
they
own,
s- they-
their own funds that they.
that's good to know.
But yeah, so I encourage that.
Be going to
Thank you.
Chamber of Commerce.
One other thing I wanted to add pertaining to benches. So in addition to exploring opportunities for benches that are made by Worldtronics and donated, we have also been exploring, recognizing the price tag of anything that happens here. We are exploring opportunities to try to source locally some of the improvements that we're proposing here. The community table, for instance, there's a local business in town that's already expressed interest in potentially being a part of that, which is exciting. Obviously, we have to get to the price on that, but as best we can, we're also trying to source locally and source economically. So we're not trying to import something that may be much more expensive than what we could buy locally.
So the ones that were on there, they're not like set in stone. Those are just concept ideas.
For the benches?
Yeah, the benches and that table.
Largely, yes. I mean, I think that we would, from a action, I think, plan to build that unless something were to change, something were to come up with a, I don't know, if, I guess the one thing that could impact not necessarily the benches there, but the stormwater retention basin. If we get some soil borings and it finds out that the water table can't allow it, then at that point we'll have to pivot. So there are some opportunity for changes here, but I think largely this is what staff has reviewed. We've had the task force review, and I think this is what we're comfortable recommending to the council for approval.
Well, I think all of my questions were answered between you and,
Sue and Lance, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
But it was, I had noticed too that there was deletion of parking, but then addition over here. So I mean, it doesn't quite equal it out, but now you're saying there's gonna be like 29 spots added on another street where there
Yep.
has been no parking, so there is an addition there. So I guess those were my big questions, is the
Absolutely.
parking, and you've answered that, so.
yeah. Parking is unsurprisingly something that is, we're always trying to contend with and get creative about. I know the hard thing too, when it comes to a lot of businesses, especially on the Dudley lot, is this is their primary parking. But it's also the parking that we want to have employees park nearby, because we obviously don't want them parking on the street too, where they could also impact customers. So it is a very delicate balance that I think we're always trying to manage. So, yeah, I mean, do the best we can, and I think it's finding the opportunity that we found 29 more stalls just by restriping for us was huge, but we do recognize that it's still a block and a half away. But the hope is that with the First Avenue project, once it's done and once it looks like it, we hope it to, there'll be a number of people that want to make that block and a half walk as opposed to parking in front, going to the store and then leaving, which we still have opportunities to do, but we're trying to make it a more of an appealing place to walk.
Councilmember Phantasen.
Can you speak to the alleyway on the southwest of that's a pretty narrow alleyway, and I think there's concern about people pulling onto 25, that it's kind of dangerous.
It is a very narrow alley. So there
Is that
is.
going to be a one-way, or?
So it'll remain an alley as it is. I don't believe it's a one-way now. Just for clarification, the question has been asked that, the question has been asked if that is a public street, and it will, with this, it's not intended to be a through street at all. So the existing conditions would remain. So obviously with the straight design here, it makes it easier for deliveries. And that is something that I know with, that has been mentioned, that the access in this parking lot is already difficult to navigate at best. At least down here with the moving around with the vehicles. So we wanted to have an opportunity to have delivery trucks, if they come in, whether they be semis or UPS or FedEx, whatever that may be. FedEx is a little bit easier to navigate. We wanted to make sure that there's a more clear pathway for them to access.
So does the project intend to fix that paving there too?
So we
of
would-
the alleyway?
Yeah, so we would repave anywhere that's public property. So
Okay.
it would include this. This is a private parcel that does have parking, but it serves the buildings right here, the Comey buildings. And I believe it didn't misspeak. It is a one-way.
In the spirit of recycling, we should figure out a way to take the jail doors, the steel, and make benches or tables, or
Yeah.
maybe use it as part of the retention pond as a grading so people can walk over. You never know.
Yeah, certainly a lot of opportunities.
There's
So
a lot of opportunities.
yeah,
There's a lot of doors.
yeah,
There's like 200 of them.
yeah. That is true.
I bet you could get them for a song,
Probably.
As long as you're not singing.
as long as you're not singing.
Right.
That's right. That's all I have, Mayor.
How big is that potential public bathroom that's down in the corner there?
So right now we've explored a little bit. We're hoping for 4 stalls, 4 unisex stalls, but we're also, there's a little more that needs to be done with that. We know we won't be able to expand it anymore without impacting more parking. So we'll get some estimates from, we've done some preliminary estimates from staff on the backside, but I think we're hoping for 4. But once we get more design, once the plan's approved, we'll look into more on how to creatively do that. Well, one thing we also wanted to do was add an opportunity for public events and public newsletters. Chambers has come up as one where you post some chamber stuff on the walls, and we could have like a public announcement board of sorts. That's yeah, just a couple of ideas we've had, but
Okay.
yeah.
The alley that's on First Avenue south of Division, that's gonna be closed off when that project's done, right? Isn't that alley, it's not in this view, it's down You can't see it.
Oh, you're
It's
talking
south
about
of
on
BJ's
First.
Deli.
Yeah. Yep, so with that, we closed that alley, and it will be now, through that added, I think we added back 4 stalls, and then the intention with that is that it becomes a pedestrian activated alley, which, the fact that it's not an alley that in staff's view is really conducive to a lot of public use, we wanted to utilize that space for, whether it be murals, whether it be, as people are walking from where the 29 new parking stalls are, this could be a nice way to enter through. So yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
won't be
that could be
open.
nice.
Those public bathrooms, will they lock at any point, or are they open all the time?
Yeah, so staff has talked about that. I think our intention right now is that they lock at 10 and then they open at 8. And we'll find a variety of ways to do that. We've heard from farm staff and downtown business owners as well that there is concern about having those available 24/7 and potential downsides of what that looks like. So we have certainly heard that. I think we share the same concerns. So we'd probably look at creating either doing it remotely, which is plenty of software out to do that now.
We do that at some of our existing.
I think we do that at the parks facilities. So, yeah, we just thrown out 8 to 10, but we could explore that a little bit more if there's other opportunities.
While the pavement was torn up and redone, would you be adding in the infrastructure, the water and sewer? Or,
To the bathrooms?
yes, to
Yes,
where they would
yep.
be?
Yeah, so we would do
You just
that.
cap them off for
Yeah.
future? Okay.
Yeah, we would do that with this project. We actually, several businesses in downtown have long been asking for downtown bathrooms, and we've kind of pushed it off just to find a location and find a good time for a project. And I think we identified this potential location 2 years ago, but the thought at the time was, well, let's not do it now, and we'll tear it up anyway in 2 years. And then we pushed it off, I think, as long as we probably could until now. This project, it could make sense. So that's where that arose.
I just have one fire department or safety question, but you might be able to answer it. So that view right there,
This one?
is that the best option for the fire department as far as the wider part being on the north side, or would it make a difference if the wider part was on the south side, or what do you think, John?
Come on up, John.
Mayor and council, thank you. Yeah, we discussed this pretty thoroughly, and this would be the best option for us, considering the buildings that are currently in place.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, thanks.
Anything else? This is our chance.
Can't think of anything right now.
So you're looking for approval for refined concept. I hear there's a few loose ends yet, so could you just talk about exactly what we're approving?
Yeah, so I would say the only real loose end is probably verification that drainage basin can happen.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, I just, basically what we're looking for is kind of this is a point in time where we're looking at council to give the approval. Everything here looks appropriate and you're on board with it. This is, we'll then go into 60% design stage. So we'll actually start developing construction documents from this and get into more of the nuts and bolts and the specifics. So what we're asking for today is approval of what's shown here, essentially, the layout, the dimensions, parking lot dimensions, the layout, et cetera. And then we'll bring final plans to you for final approval before we go up for bid. Does that help?
So is there does this create some legal standing, or, there was some different language here on what you're actually looking for. So I assume this is like, yeah, we think this looks good, and you'll be back again.
Right. Staff is just looking for your approval now. It can always be changed in the future if you want. It's just, if we come back to you at the next stage and think changes are made, then it's going to potentially delay the project.
Right.
And provide additional costs to redesign, so.
Yeah, there's been a lot of work on this, and I generally like what I see. I thought it was a good presentation. I understand what's going on in the Dudley lot now with the stormwater area, because you can't really get any more parking in there anyway, the way it is. So, and we should do what we can to clean up the water going into the lake, so that all makes sense to me. I did get an email from a business owner downtown that was talking, and he's not in this particular area, but one of the things, and this will be a subject for another time, but he brought up designated parking spots for certain businesses.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. That is something that has been asked by business owners before. That's something we've looked at. I think the reason staff up to this point has avoided that is that it kind of creates a slippery slope. The reason being that if we approve designated parking for this business here, it could create issues there. Now, that being said, we do, I believe, have a couple designated stalls at the liquor store downtown where it's liquor store and then it's Forge Fitness. So we have done it on that parcel in the past. I think generally though, for other larger city parking lots, we've tried to avoid it as best we can, because then the argument becomes, well, how many spaces do they get? How many spaces do they get? And then it's puts us in a rough spot where I think we, as best we can, try to stay out of some of that.
So that's, in the city planning business, I think that's called a can of worms. that
Yeah.
you don't
Yep,
wanna
I would say
get
that's
into.
the legal term.
Yeah, so, you know, the thing I change, and it's partly cost, it's mainly because I think it's just gonna be a headache and create a lot of problems for the city, is the restroom. I mean, I would pull that at 250 to 400 grand. I think we're not only saving money where there's a lot of other places we could put it if we had to spend it, but I just think it's gonna be nothing but trouble. So, I get it, I mean, but I just think it's probably a bad idea. So other than that, I don't see a whole lot of issues with it personally. And I hear there's, you know, some other parking spots freeing up in other areas, so
That's correct.
I hate to see us lose parking spots, but I understand why now after looking at this again, so those are my thoughts.
I agree with that.
The public restroom is troublesome, but I think it would be a nice feature because we get a lot of people that come in for those weekend sales. And I think if we maintain them well, and, you know, you can always close them. Right now where I'm living, when I'm working along the lake, they have a nice set of public restrooms that are pretty well maintained. And I've seen them, we've all seen them that aren't. And, you know, I think Buffalo as a city with our staff, I would trust our staff that we would, if we had problems with, we gotta close it at 6 o'clock at night, then we'd close it at 6. I mean, I think we can make it work. I agree with you, I don't like to spend the money on that, and we're right now, we're just talking about some pipe underground and capping it, and I'm okay with that, and see where things are at in a few years, with the intention that you could do it, but you don't have to now.
So is that the plan right now, is just plumbing for it and such, but not building it? Like
So-
George is saying?
So we would build it with the parking lot when it's redeveloped. And the parking lot, also, just for added clarification, so we would not do the parking lot until the street's done. So obviously, kind of goes without saying, but we don't want to have the street closed while the parking lot's also up. But we would install with the street project the plumbing that would be used for the public restrooms. So, yeah,
Would you be building the public restroom? Is that part of this budget?
At the time of the parking lot when it's redone, yes, we would. We would just put the infrastructure in when the street's open on
I see.
first. Yeah, so
So how much behind the street is the public bathroom?
how far off the street?
No, time-wise.
It would just be whenever the parking lot is redone. So that would be, I mean, ideally, we could get it done. I mean, we'd probably do that last with the rest of the parking lot once it's kind of paved. But it would be lumped in with the parking lot project. I don't know if that answers your question.
Not really.
Okay.
So it would be next
So I
year
guess what I
sometime.
wanted,
Probably, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Next year sometime.
Yeah.
Or
I
maybe
guess
even 2027.
This leads me to my comment, if we, on considering, because we're just approving what we see in front of us tonight. If we come up with a better solution for public bathrooms in the intervening time, we still have a way that we can exit this and go with something else.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if there is another opportunity to create public bathrooms in another building or something else nearby that still kind of meets the need for that, I mean, from staff's perspective, I think we hear a lot of business owners downtown that want public restrooms, but I don't know if we're necessarily particular about where they are. So, yeah, if there's another opportunity that arises, certainly we should try that as well.
How much of that price tag for the public bathroom that we see on page 59, how much of that is the rough-in?
I would defer to our engineer.
That price that you see there is primarily for the building structure itself.
Okay.
The rough-in is gonna be quite minimal because we're digging it all up and replacing sewer and water pipes anyway, so to stub in another service is probably less than a few $1,000s.
Okay, thank you. I think that, I do want to say, I do think public bathrooms need to happen. We need more of them. I was stuck with a little bitty grandchild downtown on more than one occasion, and when they're trying to learn how to do this right, you don't have time to walk all the way down to Sturgis Park. And I'm thinking about lots of scenarios where we need to have this downtown. We can't go into business, so.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we've heard from, I attend the Buffalo Retail Group meetings, and that is something that comes up pretty regularly about especially during occasional weekends and during big events that the Buffalo Retail Group is hosting, whether it be Ladies' Day Out or any of those other events, it becomes a problem. But then there's other times where it's not as pertinent, because a lot of it is really utilized by visitors and tourists and shoppers, which is why we also had, in this case, had it located near parking that they would utilize ideally.
So what I'm hearing is, I think we got a difference of opinion on the restrooms. Probably a little wiggle room. I'm assuming, I kind of wondered what everybody was here for. I think I know now, so, which is probably this particular issue? No? So,
I think it is mixed.
we're not, we don't have a public hearing on this, but I think if anybody has a minute or two that there's something they want to say, I guess I'd like to hear from you now rather than later. So,
Thank you, Mayor.
come on up, sir. State your name and where your business is or where you live.
Good evening, everybody. Brandon Walters. I'll be in the south corner there, the Comey Building. I'm with Edward Jones. So very interested in this project, and I would say that it is unfortunate we're losing parking spots. On the restroom issue in particular, I think there's no reason we should have restrooms in downtown Buffalo. We have a number of businesses that have access, have restrooms that could limit it to paying customers. I've been to many public restrooms that are terribly maintained. I've heard that city employees would maintain these. I don't know who's going to be coming out on a Friday night, a Saturday night, hourly check-ins on a Sunday. It just seems very daunting and difficult to have those clean and presentable for guests that come to Buffalo, where the business owners that are requesting these have these restrooms in their facilities. In most cases, I think we all have restrooms, so just my 2 cents. And again, I think parking is the #1 complaint that I get from anybody that comes downtown. It's never to use the restroom, at least in my location. I'm right on 1 First Avenue South is my current office, and I know I'm not a retail business, but it doesn't mean that's the highest priority and highest function for this space. I think it also attracts many potential problems, as the mayor presented, and I'd hate to see that kind of ruin this area for all these businesses, because this is a professional setting for many of us. So just my 2 cents. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Come on up, sir.
Mark Tucker, own the old National Bank building. I strongly disagree. We operate a retail store out of there, a couple of retail stores out of there, that the restrooms in most of these buildings down here are not adequate for the type of volume that comes as requested, nor are they ADA compliant. And so there is certainly a need for public restrooms in a centralized location here. Also, just one thing, this whole Dudley lot is predicated on owners of these businesses actually quitclaiming property to the city in order to make this happen. We do believe, our opinion is that giving up that drive-through spot that is part of our current property with that building does make a lot of sense to the flow of the parking lot as it is here. It does allow access for semi-trucks and bigger vehicles to come in one side and out that alley, or vice versa, where right now it does become quite a lot of a problem. But there are certain aspects to giving things up that you're hoping to get in return. And so restrooms is very important to, I would say, all of the businesses, retail businesses that are currently occupying that spot. We used to lease spots, another location in this same parking lot before we purchased this building. It had a restroom issue. There's no way we could have allowed guests to use the restrooms in that location. So it is a very important thing. Without, literally $10,000, $15,000 in each one of these locations investing in their plumbing to get it up to code, it's just not something that we can offer. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody else, come on up, state your name and for your business or where you live.
I'm Laurel Kenny. I have a business. I own a commercial building in the parking lot, 28 Central. My business is at 24 and a half. We're also the UPS store, and I live in Buffalo. So there's a few things, and I have a big long letter, which I'll email you. I'm not going to read it all. The first thing for our restrooms, they're not ADA. Also, where our restroom is also where our work area is. I'm not going to have people back there. Our safe is back there. We also have the Minnesota Lottery, so there's lottery tickets back there. We just don't have a restroom in our store. And the same goes for the building that we own. The other thing that I need to bring up too, in order for you guys to go forward, I have a fence also in the parking lot. I did receive an email that the city would ask me to do a quick claim deed for $1. That's not gonna happen. I'm gonna make that very clear. I went through my property taxes from 2016 to 2025. It was a 50% increase. And you'll see this in the letter that I'm gonna send you. So my question is, with all these improvements, what's gonna happen to our taxes? Has that been considered? The other thing is that I have not been contacted. My business is open 6 days a week, if not more. You've been there. Mm-hmm. But nobody has came to me. And as I was talking to other building owners in my parking lot, for instance, Steve, he didn't even know what was going on. In order to make these decisions, you should be talking to the businesses that are surrounding the parking lot, because I'm not for right store parking. If you guys looked what happened in Rockford at the Dollar Tree, it can happen anywhere, but again, it's a safety concern also. So I feel that we need to have a little bit more communication here before we go further anymore. Again, I invited everybody down to the store. You took that opportunity, come down, see what happens down there for 6 days a week. The other thing is with the bathrooms, we have a porta potty in there right now. Yes, I've called the Buffalo Police Department a few times with issues that happen down there. When you're putting a set of restrooms, I hope that you guys really take a look at that and make sure that they're secured, because with the issues that I have called on, or maybe looking at businesses that stay open late like us to secure restrooms, I mean, we're a community. We're all supposed to be working together here. And that's why we should probably take a step back and really talk to us businesses that are open 6 days a week and know what's really going on.
Right. Thank you.
Mhm.
I look forward to seeing the letter.
Good evening, Kelsey Schenecker with Natural Roots Salon. I guess just a few of my concerns. I have not been able to make any of the noon meetings. And I did listen in on one, and I know one of the big topics was the dumpsters. I do have 2 dumpsters behind my building. And I just hope that, I guess through consideration, how many people that my building sees in a day. I have 31 employees and renters at any given time. And then I also have a boutique in there that shoppers come in, and then we also have tanning. So people come and go out of that back lot because it is a self-serve tanning, so they can just come and go as they please out that back lot, and a lot of them use that. So I am concerned about parking spaces. As far as the bathrooms go, I absolutely hate the location. I have a lot of young women that are there till 8, 9 p.m. and there's been enough riffraff in that parking lot that we've had to deal with, and I myself have called the cops multiple times on this issue, and I just feel like it's unsafe for my employees, all of my staff, all of my renters, as well as the whole dumpster situation. We feel that every week, and I know it was talked about in the last meeting that they would be emptied more frequently, but like how frequently is that? Because again, I have a lot of people in my building that get shipments every day and stuff like that. So just making sure that it also doesn't start to look awful because we don't have enough dumpster space or they're not being emptied enough. Yeah, there was, I think Laurel touched on any other things I had.
Thank you, Kelsey.
In terms of the security for your employees, could we hear a little bit more about the lighting in the area of not the dumpsters, the public bathrooms?
Yeah, I can touch on that briefly. The lighting in the parking lot will achieve the minimums, if not above and beyond that. Most lots and most sidewalks is 1-foot candle. I mean, hearing that concern, we don't have the photometric plan done yet for the parking lots and for the streets. But that's definitely something that we'll work through and just make sure, especially, well, really any public space, either parking lot, but here with the amount of traffic, that it is well lit, and we'll make sure it's up to a standard where, you know, if there's a threshold, we'll look at going above and beyond that with David as well. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Teresa DeJarlis with The Porch. And I have a few things to mention. One is, I don't know how many of you are aware of how many people come into downtown Buffalo for the businesses that are in that Dudley Square. I'm not sure at all you do. I don't think we've ever really had the support or the information, you know, get through to the city. But we want those people to feel welcome. There is no place for them to go to the bathroom. There aren't many places for them to eat, but the big issue is they have to go out and use a porta potty. I'm okay with occasional use of mine for one person, but I can't handle. My building is 1902. I don't know when the toilet was put in. There's one toilet on the retail level. We can't handle it, and we had exorbitant fees for people who don't treat the toilet like they're at home, you know, with what they flush. Anyway, so that's that part. The other thing is, at no point did I hear it mentioned that this Dudley lot plan involves using property that's owned by the businesses. I mean, I own, this is a photo of, it goes out past. Okay, the manhole, you see that? That's a big part of my business, what I sell outside. And I'm just supposed to give that property away,
you know, that
Teresa,
kind of
could
thing.
you give this to
I
staff
will,
and we can?
yes, of course. Anyway, that would be the other thing, I didn't hear it mentioned at all, what that material would, what that would cost the city to purchase our properties. So those are my thoughts, thank you.
Thank you.
Council, I can provide a little clarity to that as well. So as the two business owners mentioned, there is portions of this parking lot that is owned by private businesses. Frankly, from the staff side, well, from the city side, that is absolutely not ideal for obvious reasons. Staff has contacted the property owners about a potential quitclaim for $1, which has been standard practice for us in the past. Doesn't mean that necessarily is what council has to do in this case. The intent with that really is to have the property maintenance and the liability which again, I'm not an insurance person, but I don't know if there's liability on private properties. The intention is to have those parcels, when this parking lot is redone, all of the parking lot put into public, on public property. So there would be, once the plan is finalized, there would be some conversations about, I mean, from the staff's perspective, ideally property acquisition, but if that is not a route that the business owners or property owners are comfortable pursuing, we can also explore easements. That's not ideal for a couple reasons, and I think that is something that we'll have to explore a little bit more on why that's not ideal. Typically that involves maintenance, and that is something that we're trying to avoid for obvious reasons. So I do recognize that maybe from the property owner's perspective, there has been discussions about long-term acquiring, or ideally with this project, but acquiring the land that the parking lot's currently under. It would just go up until the building line, so it would not encroach into the buildings themselves, obviously. Just wherever we're putting a new parking lot, the same confines here, it would end there. And then maybe have space for sidewalks as we typically do. So it is admittedly not an ideal situation at all. I mean, we have every property owner here up until about Lindlands right here, and then as Mark had mentioned earlier from JTB's, they have property that runs all the way over here as well, which also does create complications. As Kelsey had mentioned from Natural Roots, they have their garbage dumpsters currently on what's private property. So it's, again, one of those things we're trying to kind of navigate, and it's not an easy solution, and I think from staff side, we recognize there's concerns about that, the property line piece too, because they're trying to kind of fix that. So just wanted to add that in as well before. So sorry.
Once this would get done, I see like must be some cement out behind the porch there where she already has her retail area. Is that gonna be like, yep, nope, sorry, you can't use it anymore? Or would she still be able to have her retail area there? And is it Muffy's Basement?
Muffy's Basement Bar.
They have outdoor seating. Is that gonna be kiboshed?
Great question. So we probably would jog the property lines to where the edge of the parcel is. So yeah, for the porch, I know that they do a lot of outdoor sales. For the sake of ease, because we also wouldn't be really maintaining that, we don't really want it either. So we would probably just design the property lines to kind of jog with where it ends. Evelyn's over here has an outdoor pergola. Obviously, we don't want to impact that. I know Laurel had mentioned earlier the location, because this is her storefront over here. We don't want to impede her access to her building at all. So, and then same down here with JTB's, it would kind of jog probably over here. We would like to have still access for pedestrians to want to walk in that area, but some of that could kind of come down to like locations of dumpsters here on where does the property line end and where does it begin. That we could explore further.
But like she has her area set up really nice. And is she gonna be able to redo that? Or is the city gonna be like, yep, nope, you can no longer have that there? That's what my question is.
Yeah, so if it would be on what is parking spaces, then yes, that'd be something we would not want to have, because that would impact the amount of parking stalls. But if it's on like a sidewalk that's right outside, then obviously we probably, and I'm not saying this for sure, we probably wouldn't consider that our property and we wouldn't try to take it over, in which case we don't really care that much, as long as it doesn't cause a fire hazard. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of funny property line boundaries here, because again, this is not where it currently is. There's a whole line of parking stalls here that is on private property, and we're trying to avoid that for.
Who maintains that now? Who snowplows that lot?
So the city currently snowplows it and maintains it and repairs it, so.
Other than your spot.
Yeah, we don't,
Lillian's, we don't, but I mean, that main road?
Let's try and direct the conversation through the microphone so everybody at home can hear it. I think what we just established is the city maintains the lot, plows the lot, does a lot for the businesses in the area. I think this is how things grow up over time, and you got all these little discrepancies and, you know, things happen. And here we are with the, you know, potential project, so it's time to clean it up. So, I mean, this is not, nobody did anything bad. This is, you know, how things go, and here we are. So, I'd like to move it further along. You know, we've heard about the bathrooms. I think that's the one thing we can probably either approve or disapprove at this point. I'm not against public bathrooms per se. We have them throughout the city. And I'm not against one downtown particularly. I don't like this particular plan for one. I've seen them work in other places, although rarely. You know, people have been figuring it out for 100 years. So I'm not sure it's the city of Buffalo's job to make sure everybody coming into town for, you know, a few hours, we provide a bathroom for them. I just think it's, I take the public safety concerns seriously. I think we're better off without it at this point in this particular plan. So, I don't know, we've got a parliamentarian here, I don't know, if there's, maybe we need to vote on that particular aspect of it and then go on with the rest of it, or maybe just a consensus. I'm against it.
Mayor?
We got one more person who wants to talk, and that's gonna be it then, so.
Could I just ask on that public restroom area, could it be moved to a different location, kind of over where the, I guess, forget what street it is, the one across Madera, kind of the one that runs east-west there? Could it be moved over to there where it's not impacting businesses as much and it's not a safety concern over
I'm
there?
open to looking at it. I think there's gonna be some other pieces in play down there going forward, so I think we're better off not doing this one and looking at it more
Sure.
going forward.
Mayor, could I make something I'm seeing here? Is it seems like the business owners within the Dudley parking lot don't feel like they've been talked to by staff. But I do think there's support for restrooms, because these are older buildings and ADA is a reality, and we need to deal with that. We have the occasional sales where we have a lot of people coming, and I think it would be a nice gesture on our part as a city. I'm wondering if we can postpone this for 2 weeks and have staff meet with the local folks and don't move forward tonight with this plan, and give time for staff to meet with the ones that are mostly affected. I don't think we're hearing anything on the north parking lot, any issues with that. It's this parking lot. And I think maybe if we pause for 2 weeks, we have another meeting. Can we do that, Taylor? Is that?
Yeah, we'd actually have more time than that. Our next meeting isn't until July 7th, so we have this is one of those five.
I know we want to keep moving with the design, but I'm hearing enough resistance to it that I have pause. I don't want the bathrooms right next to the young woman's business if it's a sense of security, an issue with security, but also the fact that we have a police department so close, you can actually use it as an attractant for your nefarious folks, so you can pick them up and throw them in jail. So, well, we can put more focus on it, because I really think we want a safe community for everybody, whether they're leaving work at 8 o'clock at night or coming to work at 8 in the morning, so. That would be my suggestion, Mayor.
Mayor and council, we could absolutely postpone the vote on this. If that were the case and the direction the council would want to head, I would just recommend that they would vote to table it until the July 7th city council meeting.
I'll make a motion to table it
Yeah,
till the July 7th.
Do we have a
council
second?
meeting.
I would second.
Okay.
And then
I
with-
don't
with-
think
with-
we're gonna end up in a real different place, but I'm fine with that. I think there needs to be a little more conversation, and
Mayor and council, just to be clear, we would not call a public hearing on July 7th, so
No.
nobody would have an expectation that we would offer a chance to speak. If it would be an opportunity for staff to engage more with business owners, perhaps an opportunity for business owners to reach out to council during that interim period, and then the decision will be reached on July 7th.
I think that's a good point. So call or email or let us know what you think ahead of time.
And I think I did enjoy visiting Laurel's business, and I did stop at the porch to try to speak to the owner there one time, but her sister was at the counter, and I wasn't able to do that. Yeah, and I think that it would be good to drop in at a few of these places and see the existing bathrooms that we'd be asking them to make do with if we did not do public bathrooms. And I also wanted to add one more thing. If we are doing this project and we see tents and food trucks and things like that, people who are dining on the street they haven't purchased in a store where they can go in and use that bathroom. So we need to be able to provide bathrooms for people who are eating at the farmer's market or around that zone where we are trying to do that. I would like to see also a little more information we asked some questions about when the bathrooms would be locked, what kind of lighting. I think that not only just talking to the owners more, but also getting a little more clarification on some of these details that might make it more reassuring that these will be nice bathrooms, or that we can make them nice bathrooms.
We'll be talking about this more. We got a motion and a second to table it. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion table passes 5-0. So your work isn't quite
Yep.
done yet. So
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, not a problem. So council, staff will set up meetings with the Dudley lot property owners again and set it up ideally within the next 2 weeks before we have, maybe the next week,
Yeah,
before we have.
that'd be great. Thank you, David.
Yep, absolutely.
appreciate that.
David, how hard would it be for you to put something together for us, council, to see what business owners have, what property they have in that parking lot?
It'd be very easy. So we can use Beacon to show, and I will have that included for the next meeting, but it'll show like property boundaries. Is that what you're
Yeah,
referring to?
yeah.
Yeah, so you can certainly do that.
Good point.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. New business, you don't have to go anywhere.
I know,
So,
it's me again.
Planning Commission matters.
Yes, so we have 2 planning commission items, council, to discuss. One was a CUP amendment for 1315 State Highway 25 North. This is the Walmart building. They are proposing installing a 2,000 square foot building addition and then removing 23 parking stalls that are currently regular occupancy stalls and replacing them for drive-up pickup stalls. So as this parcel is governed by a number of land use permissions, actually a PUD through a CUP, this would require a CUP amendment. So they're proposing, again, to go from 10 pickup stalls to 33. They're also proposing removing a fabric canopy that's over where those current pickup stalls are. They're proposing the 2,000 square foot addition, really to handle more of those pickup orders. And then they're also proposing to have some pedestrian painted crossing, as there will be a number of employees going from the pickup location to the vehicles. So Planning Commission discussed this. The only major concern really was having a pedestrian striping for the employees walking to and from the building. But otherwise, staff and Planning Commission felt it met the requirements for the CUP amendment request that they had and recommended approval. Happy to answer any questions with this.
I have a question I didn't ask at the Planning Commission
Yes.
meeting. And when I mistakenly ordered something from Walmart, Elk River. And, and I wanted it to come to Buffalo, but for some reason the address flipped to Elk River. So I drove up there to pick up my order, and I really liked the way they have that. The pickup is on the side of the building. So all traffic is, yeah, all traffic is routed up to the side, and the people bringing the things out had a very short trip, and it was very safe because they weren't cutting across a traffic way. Did Buffalo consider that option?
So the applicants had only discussed changing these parking stalls and adding the painted crossing here. That was the extent of it. I would say, based off of how they're proposing, I mean, I think we don't foresee significant concerns there, given that the location of where the addition is west of the main entrance and then east of the strip mall. So that's all to say we didn't consider that from the Planning Commission side, and the applicant didn't propose that, but that is something maybe for a future amendment we could look at, or this one as well too. We didn't feel that there was, given the fact that they have extensive painting for pedestrians and they would have new signage, we thought that it would help alleviate any concerns there.
And I'm sure they are aware how other stores are doing it. I guess I wondered what was the reason that they didn't pick that?
Yeah.
So we don't know that.
They don't know that. They just stated that they want to have more pedestrian pickup. That was all we had heard.
I'm just wondering if, I see that strip mall on the side of the building where they do all their corralling of their, I see when you walk into Walmart on the left-hand side is where they corral all those orders.
Yep.
And if that strip mall's there, that's why they can't pull up to that side of the building. And if the building you went to.
The other side, yeah.
If it were on the other side, then it probably would work better.
Mhm.
So I'm just,
That's the side I meant, the outside.
yeah.
But Monticello's also like a standalone building, so it doesn't have a strip mall.
It doesn't have a strip
So
mall.
it could, I
So-
don't know what Elk River's like, but.
It's all their automotive stuff on the other side,
Yeah.
so.
So all the food is heading that direction, so I'm all right with what, if the planning commission voted for it.
I think we felt better that there was a 24-foot wide
Yes.
painted zone,
Yeah.
which is pretty significant
They're
for
proposing
pedestrian
several.
crossing there.
Yeah. They're also, to that point, Councilmember, they're also proposing to spruce up the parking lot with new striping and new signage. So they have some pretty complicated plans, but their request from our perspective is reasonable, for sure.
Do we have a motion to?
I'll make a motion that, I didn't read what I have to do. That we approve the conditional use permit, is that correct?
Conditional use permit amendment.
Amendment, yep, for the
Okay.
Walmart.
Very good, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That one passes, thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the only other item that we had action on was a replatting of the former Penred site, now Buffalo Area Community Center. This was 4 parcels, and with the intent from the community center to build a parking lot and potentially add a splash pad and a number of other things that could happen at the site. Staff felt it best to just combine all the parcels into one. So with the building being the principal use on the site, any construction technically on the other parcels would be a problem and a violation of it. So staff thought it best to combine the parcels, and then there will be an easement that will be vacated on the western side. It's just a remnant of when these parcels are as they are right now. It's 2 drainage and utility easements. We expect that to be on the July 7th consent agenda. Well, actually, no, we can't have it on the consent agenda because it needs to be a public hearing, but we'll have it on the July 7th meeting. So this one, not a lot of conversation from the Planning Commission, as it was as close to administrative as you could probably get, but still had to have a public hearing and wanted the council's feedback and input on it.
So the planning commission held the public hearing,
Yep, that's correct.
and we don't have to?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will have to hold a public hearing on the easement vacation in July, so that's what.
That's correct, yeah.
Dave was
Okay.
speaking about.
Yeah,
But
so
as
we'll
far
have
as
that one
combining
coming up.
these,
All right, but we don't need to hold one tonight,
No.
because we already sort of had an impromptu one, so one a night's probably enough, so. What do you think, council?
I'd make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for the address of 114, 118, 121, and 125 Commerce Circle.
Thank you for that. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There being none, that passes.
Thank you, council.
Okay. Trunk Highway 25, East Frontage Road, right turn lane. City Engineer Justin Canas. What do you got, Justin?
This one should be a pretty easy one for you guys. This is to award the bid for the Highway 25 right turn lane project for the frontage road, which is primarily serving the access for the animal clinic. We received 4 bids for the project. The low bid was $124,717 from New Look Contracting. We have a grant that will cover the full construction cost minus the light relocation cost, which is not a MnDOT eligible item. That totals $13,287.50. Also included in your packet is a second action item, which would be approving a resolution to approve the cooperative construction agreement with MnDOT, which funds this project. So it's my recommendation that first you award the contract to New Look Contracting in the amount of $124,717.
Mayor, I believe I was maybe on planning commission when this first came to, that was for the Chipotle and the
Starbucks.
The Starbucks. And I am so happy to see that we're moving forward. We said we would do it. We would look at a turn lane for the veterinary clinic. The work has been done on the road, that this is moving forward and going to happen so they have a safe way to exit into their space. And I drove by Chipotle and Starbucks. It's a very busy parking lot. By moving the driveway back from the intersection, I don't see cars backing up anymore like they used to. You know, that cross traffic trying to get off of 55 or off of 25. So this is a really, I think it's a completion of our plan, and I think it was a very good move. I know people wanted to get Chipotle here. We did it. It was not the easiest thing to do, but I think that it's been done very well. Justin, thank you for your help, and I would make a motion to approve, unless someone else wants to make the motion.
No, that, you made the motion.
All right,
so-
and I'll make a motion to approve the award of the bid for the Trunk Highway 25 Frontage Road East right turn lane to New Look Contracting of Rogers for $124,717, as well as recommend the council approve the attached resolution approving the cooperative construction agreement with MnDOT for that award.
Do you need two motions or?
Two separate.
It would be good to have 2 separate
All right.
motions.
Okay, so I'll amend it to award the bid to New Look Contracting.
And I didn't let you off the hook there because you were exactly right on what you said. And I was real glad when the grant came through, and this is what we were hoping for.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's the right thing to do, and we put our necks out a little bit to make this happen as a planning commission and as a council and as an engineer and staff. And it's really nice to see the success of that corner, and then to see that this follows through with the safety and we're taking care of the neighbor to the north, the veterinary clinic.
so do we have a second?
I'll second, oh, you go ahead.
I'll let staff figure
Either
that
one.
one out. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we're looking for another motion then.
I'd make a motion for the council to approve the attached resolution approving the cooperative construction agreement with MnDOT for this work.
Very good. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. I think we know who got the first one then. So all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. There being none, so that passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
So we're going to have some staff updates here. I demand staff updates from somebody. Here we go.
Anybody but Jason?
Well, no,
Anybody but Jason.
He's going to give us an update.
That's right.
one guy wanted to hear
Fiber.
from.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Existing fiber, we're looking at about 8 residential installs so far this month, about halfway through the month, and 1 commercial install. Happy to bring BJ's Deli on board. I've been working with them for quite some time. So, as far as the existing, the technicians are also doing site surveys, kind of ramping up for the Rodeo Hills installs that are coming up. Sean Hagen as well The Phase 2 project is putting the mainline fiber into Shawhagen right now. So we sent out construction letters to Shawhagen. We sent out construction letters to Buffalo Hills. Every time we send out these construction letters, we see about 20–30% churn or questions, which generates into pre-commits as well. So seeing really good momentum. Technicians are starting to figure out how they're going to do 50 installs in the next 30 days. They're not scheduled, but those are the pre-commits that are talking about for Rodeo Hills and Shawhagen. So, any questions for me?
Is the rain causing you any problem?
Like any construction, rain is always a problem. So it's going to slow things down a little bit. The locators are kind of slowing down a little bit too. They're starting to get other projects to come into play. But TD and I, their subcontractors will figure it out and they'll keep moving along. It can't rain forever. Restoration, I shouldn't say that. There we go. Restoration, there's been a few challenges, some expectations from homeowners too. So if any of those escalate up to any of you, just let us know. Staff is jumping on it right away. Bolton and Mink, Aiden is our construction manager. He takes care of them as well, letting them know the right of way is our place to do some of this work. It doesn't always look perfect right away, but we try to get back to it as soon as we can. So a few things have bubbled up, but we're able to handle those as best we can.
Yeah, let's tidy that stuff up as soon as we can, so.
As soon as the work's done.
I know you're there. So,
Yep, exactly.
About a month ago, I think it was, that we had the special Saturday that we went out and went door to door, meeting people and talking about fiber. I assume there was a bump in pickups on that?
For sure.
And are we going to do that again sometime this summer?
We need to talk about that internally, if we're going to do that again. We've also talked about bringing on some kind of seasonal staff, maybe some high school students looking for some walking boots to kind of go out and do some door hangers. The best part of what we did on that Saturday was just to be able to talk to not only potential customers, but with community members. So that's an element that we wouldn't be able to accomplish with those seasonal staff. But be happy to put a plan together if there's an interest from council. Staff have not
I would
talked
do it
about
again. I really enjoyed it. It's very worthwhile to go do that sort of thing.
I enjoyed that too. I would do it again.
Okay. I'll get with our city staff and we'll talk through it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Run up, Derek. Mr. Fiber.
There's just small things that Brandon's yell at me after the meeting. Good evening, Mayor and staff, or council. I don't have much. I just more if you guys have any questions for me.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Go home and get some sleep and get after it tomorrow.
We try to answer or give you as much information as we can on the staff updates that we send you guys. So hopefully that's helping answer any of the questions you have or anything. Shout out to Sue for a great parade on Saturday. Driving along the route, we had I had my kids with me in the truck and the trailer. They said the same thing afterwards. They had fun. We had tons of people that we could hear from the crowds, all positive stuff. Just talking to the people next to themselves about wanting Buffalo Fiber. We heard a bunch of people that were our customers that were shouting that they were happy with it and stuff like that. So it was a good event, fun.
That's great to hear. I talked to some people about it over the weekend too, and just nothing but positive and
Yep.
A lot of enthusiasm about it. So
yeah,
that reflects well on you and your people there. And so
we got good people.
Keep it up.
For sure. Thanks.
All right. Everybody else is sort of looking at their feet. So thank you to everybody for Buffalo Days and everything you did there. So Taylor, what do you got?
I have like 6 things.
Okay.
So I'll work through them pretty quickly. Just for the public's knowledge, I know I put this in my staff report, but the state legislature wrapped up their work last week. There were no cuts of local government aid, so there's going to be no impact the city of Buffalo going to 2026. They did repeal the local government cannabis aid. Initially, when they approved retail cannabis, there was a sales tax portion of it that they were then going to redistribute to local units of government based on the number of licenses that were in their communities. And in order to patch, I think, a hole in their own budget, they eliminated that aid. Buffalo wasn't projected to really receive much, and we haven't received it, so it's not a reduction in our revenues or budget. And then lastly, and I know this is something the council has been looking at, has been talking about, the local option sales tax. A lot of cities have looked at these to fund recreation projects like a civic center, community center, things like that, that have regional impacts or regional benefits. They did not, there was a bill that was proposed to amend that process, and that there had been a moratorium in place for the last 2 years on new requests from cities. That moratorium was set, or did expire, ended up expiring at the end of May, and the Senate had a bill, but the House didn't, and they ended up making no changes. Now, we don't know if they'll set up another legislative task force to study that, but as of now, it doesn't look like that's going to change. We don't have another legislative session until next year. The local option sales tax moratorium has gone. So that requires a 3/4 vote of the city council, an approval at the legislature, and then a referendum to pass any of those. So it's quite an iterative process, but a number of cities have looked toward those funding things that benefit not just our residents, but people that utilize our streets and provide regional benefit. So we'll keep you updated on that, and that may be a topic of discussion probably after or maybe during our budgeting session, whether we want to consider pursuing that. So that was it. The state legislature, our PUC bill passed, so we'll be having a workshop in July to talk about the Public Utilities Commission. We have representatives from Elk River Municipal Utilities will be here to just talk about their experience at Public Utilities Commission and answer questions from the council on how they have theirs set up, any issues, concerns, benefits, anything that the council wants to ask them. That one is starting at 5. Typically, our workshop starts at 5:30. That one's starting at 5 to help accommodate their schedule. Council strategic plan. We had 2 meetings in March and April. We've wrapped that up with our consultant, Phil Kern. I sent that out to council last week. Please review that. It's pretty reflective of what we discussed, but the plan is to have that officially adopted and approved at the July 7th City Council meeting. The Great Outdoor Fair is June 28th from 9 to 2. It's a Saturday. Encourage folks to attend that. The Heritage Preservation Advisory Board and Library Advisory Board applications are due Tuesday, June 24th. Once we receive those, we'll talk to the respective council representatives at each of those boards to review the applications and provide a recommendation, hopefully at the July 7th meeting, for appointment to those respective boards. I'll also send out an updated meeting schedule with our budget calendar being approved, the PUC workshop, and then a workshop to talk about just our long-range financial plan and bringing in Nick Hanhut. Thank you all for responding to that. We'll have an updated budget or meeting and workshop calendar that I'll be sending all of you. As Councilor Walsh already mentioned, we're closed Thursday, June 19th for the Juneteenth holiday. That is a federally and state mandated holiday. So all cities in the state of Minnesota will be closed for that. Friday, July 4th is Independence Day, and then Monday, July 7th is our next city council. So, brief schedule update. Open to any questions.
Very good questions.
I did some work with the city of Rogers, and they always refer to it as the lost tax, which is really a bad name for tax. Local option sales tax. Have you been in discussion with them? Because they've made quite a few improvements to their hockey rink and other public facilities.
I haven't talked directly to Rogers, but I've talked to a few other cities that are kind of sales tax. We did a very brief back of the napkin sketch a couple of years ago to put together an estimate, and we could do a fairly substantial project with a lost revenue source.
The other thing, Mayor, if I could just say without mentioning any names, we saw Taylor at work 10 days ago on a Friday when he was on vacation in Florida. We had an email come in that was urgent, and you and I had discussions because it affected both of us and Taylor, and we are very fortunate to have you, Taylor. I've learned a lot from you. I learned a lot from you just in that weekend. You responded on a Sunday while you were still on vacation, and very, very, very fortunate to have Taylor as our city administrator.
Yes, very good. You're right. And I think he filled in Buffalo days here and there where he wasn't really planning on it, so.
That was fun stuff.
And as did some other city staff, so very much appreciate that.
I'll just say I learned a lot helping check in for the parade. That was and I'll probably do it again if Sue's willing to have me, so.
Very good.
You know, you look at that stuff and you're kind of like, oh man, the calendar's pretty full, but it was really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So really, it was great, so thank you. Anything else for the good of the order here?
We did forget to thank John for opening up the fire department for that other day. We expressed how nice I was having it there, but we didn't thank him for actually opening up and letting us do it there.
Especially that was gonna be the cleaning day, I'm sure. And then the trucks got rained on and that was terrible, but
Oh, and they had to be outside.
yeah.
John got a call from me at about 11 a.m., I think that Thursday, or 10 a.m., and he adjusted on the fly, so it was, we asked a lot of the fire department for moving that event, so it's definitely very much appreciated.
It worked very well, so, yep, a lot of thanks to go
You should
around.
give them Thursday off for that.
I don't think he really gets it off, so.
I told him to pretend it was a fire.
All right. We are gonna let everybody go home, adjourn this until our next regularly scheduled meeting.
July 7th.